Here's the shocking truth no one tells seniors: it's not clutter itself that keeps you trapped, it's the mistakes you don't even realize you're making. These aren't just ordinary messes or disorganized rooms, they're hidden patterns that silently chip away at your freedom, your confidence, and even your daily joy. Some mistakes make you hold onto items out of guilt, leaving your home crowded with things that no longer serve you. Others trick you into preparing endlessly for a future that may never arrive, creating a false sense of security while quietly stealing your mobility and independence. And some are so subtle that you don't even notice them until they've taken years of energy, peace, and time you could have spent living fully. Every corner of your home can carry these invisible traps: a drawer you've been saving just in case, shelves full of unfinished projects, closets packed with things meant to comfort you but instead remind you of what's lost. Seniors often think they're just being responsible, sentimental, or loving, but what really happens is that these mistakes begin to dictate your life, deciding where you can move, what you can do, and even how freely you can think. And the harshest part? The more normal these habits feel, the harder it is to see the damage they are causing. But here's the good news: awareness is the first step toward reclaiming your home and your life. By recognizing these hidden mistakes, you can start making intentional choices, letting go of what no longer serves you, and creating a space that truly supports your well-being. It's about replacing fear with clarity, guilt with peace, and clutter with freedom, all while preserving the memories and experiences that matter most. You don't have to wait for a crisis to act. The time to regain control is now. Before we dig in, if this already feels like it's striking a nerve, don't just hit like, hit that new hype button. YouTube gives you 3 free hypes a week, and every hype helps push this message higher so more seniors can finally break free from these hidden mistakes. Tap hype, tap like, and let's get started. And mistake number 3? It's the one nobody admits out loud, but almost every senior struggles with. Meet Wilson Robb, 68, a retired school principal from Ohio who seemed to have it all together. To friends, he was punctual, organized, and dependable. But behind closed doors, a very different story unfolded. His garage was stacked with boxes he promised to sort one day, his attic overflowed with decades of belongings, and every spare room had become a storage space for memories, gifts, and unfinished projects. What outsiders saw as a comfortable life was actually a maze of invisible weight. Clutter wasn't just physical, it quietly dictated how he moved, what he could do, and how he felt about his independence. Wilson's struggle resonates with many seniors over 60 who hold on to things for reasons that no longer make sense. Some items were kept out of love, honoring family or friends who were gone. Others were held out of fear of needing them, fear of letting go, or fear of regret. Over time, his home became difficult to navigate. Reaching a book meant shifting piles of papers. Preparing a meal became stressful as counters were buried under decades of important things. Yet he felt guilty at the thought of discarding anything, as each item seemed tied to a memory or identity, making decisions nearly impossible. Clutter isn't just a space issue, it's a freedom issue. The more he held onto, the less he could live in the present. Small joys, like sitting comfortably in a cleared room, inviting a friend over, or finding something he needed, became rare victories. Seniors like Wilson often feel the emotional weight long before clutter is physically overwhelming. It steals calm, joy, and confidence while convincing them they are merely responsible or sentimental. By facing his struggle, Wilson realized that releasing items didn't erase memories, it reclaimed his life. Each thoughtful release created space, clarity, and liberation. Decluttering isn't about losing the past, it's about shaping a present and future that support well-being, independence, and peace of mind. Have you ever felt your home controls you more than you control it? Drop a yes or no. Wilson isn't the only one. Mistake 1. Mistaking inheritance for identity. Wilson's attic tells the story of decades past. Dusty boxes labeled with his parents' names, delicate china he never uses, old trophies, and yellowed letters. To visitors, it might look like treasured heirlooms, but for Wilson, it had become a source of quiet anxiety. Every time he entered that space, a whisper of guilt told him that discarding these items would be disrespectful, a betrayal of memory. And so, year after year, the boxes accumulated, untouched yet emotionally heavy, quietly controlling his home and his mind. Many seniors fall into this trap without realizing it. Inherited items carry stories, histories, and sometimes unspoken family expectations. Over time, these objects can blur the line between honoring memory and living under its shadow. Wilson noticed he was defining himself less by his own achievements or passions and more by what he had inherited. He wasn't just storing items, he was storing emotions, obligations, and unresolved feelings. The attic dictated which rooms he could use, how he moved through his home, and even how much energy he had for joy or creativity. The deeper issue isn't physical clutter, it's the emotional weight attached to it. Seniors who mistake inherited possessions for personal identity often feel torn. They want to respect family legacy, yet also desire an unburdened, authentic life. This tug-of-war can create stress, indecision, and subtle regret as years pass without truly engaging in the present. Wilson realized honoring his parents didn't require holding onto every object. Memories, lessons, and love exist without physical containers. Actionable steps include sorting inherited items into 3 groups: essentials with deep meaning, things that can be gifted to someone who will genuinely use them, and items that can be respectfully released. Photographing letters, trophies, or mementos preserves memories without letting objects dominate your space. Setting limits on inherited material frees not just rooms but energy and mental space, allowing seniors to reclaim control over their homes and lives. Have you ever kept something only because it belonged to someone else? How did it feel holding on to it? Share in the comments. Clutter isn't always about the past. Sometimes, it's about a future you're quietly preparing for, saving things for a someday or someone who may never claim them, creating invisible chains that weigh down your today. Mistake 2. Holding on for hospital days. Wilson's bedroom closet was a fortress of preparedness. Unopened packages of adult diapers, stacks of blankets folded with precision, shelves of vitamins and hygiene supplies, and even spare slippers tucked into corners just in case. On the surface, it looked responsible, a senior preparing for the uncertainties of aging. But for Wilson, this habit had quietly become a source of tension and unspoken limitation. Every time he added another package or stacked another blanket, he wasn't just preparing for the future, he was rehearsing decline, imagining a body and a life that might not match his hopes, and letting fear subtly dictate the rhythm of his present. Many seniors fall into this invisible trap. Preparing for hospital days or emergencies feels responsible, even noble. Yet hoarding items in anticipation of potential decline creates stress. Instead of living fully, life starts revolving around what might happen, allowing fear to govern the environment. Wilson's home, which should have been a space of comfort, felt heavy. Every corner reminded him of fragility, dependency, and uncertainty. Simple daily tasks were affected. He hesitated to sit on chairs blocked by blankets or spent more energy navigating stacked hygiene products than enjoying the things he used. The emotional weight of just-in-case clutter is often overlooked. While seniors may feel prudent, the hidden cost is anxiety, reduced mobility, and the creeping sensation that their home is closing in. By clinging to these items, Wilson unconsciously limited his freedom and space, replacing comfort with control and caution with restriction. Actionable steps include evaluating which emergency items are truly necessary versus those adding mental load. The one-in, one-out rule is effective. For every new emergency item added, reassess whether an older, similar item can be donated or discarded. Creating a single, easy-access emergency kit preserves readiness without letting fear dominate the home. This approach frees space, reduces anxiety, and transforms a home into a place that invites living fully rather than endlessly preparing for what ifs. Do just-in-case items make you feel safe, or do they secretly weigh you down? Noticing this is the first step toward reclaiming both space and peace. The next mistake is even more surprising, because it disguises itself as a cure for loneliness, yet quietly buries seniors under a false sense of connection, adding weight instead of warmth. Mistake 3. Believing clutter is cheaper than loneliness. Wilson's living room was filled with small boxes and packages, many unopened, arriving late at night with the soft hum of delivery trucks. On the surface, it seemed harmless, a senior enjoying online shopping. But for Wilson, these purchases were far more than convenience or desire. Each package brought a fleeting sense of company, a quiet rush that someone, somewhere, had acknowledged him. In moments of isolation, opening a new box filled a void that conversation or companionship no longer could. Gadgets, clothes, and trinkets became lifelines, temporary remedies for a deep, often unspoken loneliness. This pattern is common among seniors, especially those living alone or with limited social interaction. Clutter disguises itself as comfort. A kitchen gadget becomes reassurance that someone cares, a new sweater feels like attention, and decorative items serve as tokens of social participation. The danger is subtle. The more one buys to fill emotional gaps, the more physical space becomes consumed, and mental energy is spent navigating and maintaining possessions rather than engaging in meaningful connections. What starts as harmless indulgence quietly becomes a trap. Cluttered countertops, overflowing closets, and heavy drawers serve as daily reminders that the emotional void hasn't truly been filled. Wilson recognized the pattern when he realized the joy from each package was fleeting. Within hours, items became just another object in his crowded home. Guilt and disappointment followed, yet the urge to purchase persisted, a cycle of temporary relief that never addressed the underlying issue. Seniors who mistake purchases for companionship often face emotional and financial strain while clutter grows silently around them. Actionable strategies include identifying emotional triggers behind purchases, journaling moments when you feel compelled to buy just for company, and noting preceding emotions helps uncover patterns. Building intentional connections outside of material items, phone calls, video chats, local community groups, or volunteering, replaces instant gratification with meaningful engagement. For items already acquired, implementing a one item in, one item out rule can reclaim both space and control. This teaches that physical possessions should serve life, not replace it. Have you ever bought something just to feel a little less alone? Sharing your story can be the first step toward freeing both your heart and your home. The fourth mistake is even sneakier. It hides behind caring about what others think, silently controlling decisions more than you realize. Mistake 4. Living under the shadow of other people's opinions. Wilson's garage and spare rooms had become a museum of other people's expectations. Old birthday gifts he never liked, clothes he hadn't worn in years, and tools he would never use sat neatly arranged on shelves, all preserved out of concern for how others might perceive him. For Wilson, discarding anything felt like an act of social rebellion, a silent risk that someone might judge him as ungrateful, wasteful, or careless. Over time, these objects dominated his space, not because he needed them, but because he had unconsciously surrendered control of his home to the imagined eyes of others. Many seniors face the same invisible pressure. Neighbors commenting on tidiness, friends or family with strong opinions about gifts or inherited items, or even well-meaning traditions can create unseen chains that trap even organized individuals. The problem is not merely physical accumulation, it is psychological. When fear of judgment dictates what you keep, choices no longer reflect your needs, comfort, or well-being. Instead, they are governed by guilt, anxiety, and imagined social norms. Wilson realized this when he noticed that rooms intended for relaxation were crowded with objects he hadn't touched in years, all kept to avoid perceived criticism. The consequences go beyond clutter. Emotional stress increases, decision-making slows, and autonomy erodes. Seniors may feel trapped in homes that no longer reflect their lives, yet hesitate to remove items because of what will people think. This cycle fosters quiet resentment toward both the objects and the imagined observers, making even simple tasks like cleaning or organizing feel overwhelming. To break free, start by identifying items kept primarily for others rather than yourself. Ask, would I keep this if no one else knew about it? And does this truly bring me joy or just prevent judgment? Establish personal criteria for keeping possessions based on value and use, not perceived social expectations. Another strategy is small, incremental releases. Donate one gift, recycle an old tool, or pass along an item to someone who will genuinely use it. Each intentional choice restores autonomy, reshaping the home into a space that reflects your life, not imagined opinions. Have you ever kept things because you worried about what others might think? Reflect on this. Recognizing the influence of imagined judgment is the first step toward living fully on your own terms. And speaking of others, the fifth mistake is shocking, because it isn't even your clutter you're carrying, yet it silently weighs you down every single day. Mistake 5. Carrying other people's clutter. Wilson's garage wasn't just filled with his own belongings, it had quietly become a storage space for everyone he cared about. Boxes from his nephew who had nowhere else to put them, tools borrowed from a neighbor for just a few weeks, and even pieces of furniture a friend promised to pick up months ago filled every available corner. At first, Wilson saw it as a small act of kindness, a temporary arrangement to help those he loved. But over the years, what was meant to be short-term became permanent. Floors grew crowded, pathways narrowed, and the mental load of keeping track of other people's things began to rival the physical space they occupied. Seniors often fall into this trap because of a deep desire to be helpful, needed, or connected. Saying no can feel selfish or disrespectful. Yet over time, these temporary favors quietly consume independence, energy, and peace of mind. Rooms intended for hobbies or leisure slowly transform into storage zones where Wilson could barely move without careful navigation. The problem is compounded by guilt. It's just for a while, they'll come for it soon, he would tell himself. But promised pickups rarely happened, leaving invisible anchors that restricted his life without him even noticing. The emotional cost is as heavy as the physical. Carrying other people's clutter can bring tension, frustration, and quiet resentment, yet seniors often hesitate to act because of loyalty, expectations, or fear of confrontation. The clutter doesn't just take up space, it erodes mental clarity, diminishes enjoyment of your home, and reduces the freedom to make intentional choices. Wilson's turning point came when he realized his home was no longer serving him, it was serving everyone else's temporary needs. Slowly, he reframed letting go not as selfishness, but as prioritizing his own life, comfort, and peace. To reclaim control, start by auditing items that belong to others. Identify what truly needs to stay and what can be returned, donated, or respectfully passed along. Set clear boundaries, a designated shelf, box, or corner for borrowed items, with realistic deadlines for pickup or return. Communicate kindly but firmly with friends and family. Holding onto their items indefinitely helps no one. Each item released restores space, clarity, and mental freedom. Is there something in your home that belongs to someone else? Acknowledging it is the first step toward reclaiming your home. Clutter isn't always visible. The sixth mistake hides quietly under one dangerous word, someday, and it's more insidious than it seems. Mistake 6. The someday shuffle. Wilson's spare room was stacked floor to ceiling with unopened boxes, each labeled with promises. A painting kit bought years ago, a novel he swore he would read soon, a travel scrapbook from a long-ago trip waiting to be completed. Each item carried a vow, a someday when he would finally have the time, energy, or inspiration to use it. But months turned into years, and the promise remained unfulfilled. The items transformed from potential into silent reminders of postponed opportunities. The weight of someday clutter wasn't just physical, it seeped into Wilson's thoughts, routines, and sense of self, whispering that he had fallen behind on life's intentions. Many seniors fall into this subtle trap. The someday mindset starts with good intentions, a desire to learn a new hobby, revisit a passion, or prepare for a future adventure. Yet what begins as inspiration can easily become procrastination disguised as productivity. Boxes, kits, and unfinished projects quietly accumulate, consuming both space and mental energy. Wilson noticed that the longer the items sat untouched, the more anxious he felt. Each glance reminded him of things left undone, producing guilt, frustration, and a creeping sense of time slipping away. Tools meant to inspire growth became anchors of inactivity. The emotional weight of the someday shuffle extends beyond clutter. Seniors holding onto these items often feel pressured by passing years, afraid the promise of someday will never arrive. They may avoid new projects or feel shame for unfinished activities. Wilson realized his house wasn't filled with hobbies, it was filled with postponed life, a visual record of experiences deferred in favor of hope and preparation. Breaking the cycle without guilt is key. Honor intentions without letting them dominate the present. Practical steps include setting realistic deadlines and boundaries. Decide which projects truly matter and commit to completing or releasing them within a set period. Items that no longer spark excitement can be donated, gifted, or digitized, for example, scanning old travel plans or photos. Even small actions, like opening a kit, reading one chapter, or scheduling a short creative session, transform dormant clutter into fulfilling action. Treat someday items as tools for joy, not silent reminders of procrastination. What's the one thing you've kept for years, promising yourself you'll use it someday? Naming it is the first step to reclaiming your life and home. The seventh mistake may look like safety, but it's actually a prison, quietly closing in while you believe you're protecting yourself. Mistake 7. Equating clutter with security. Wilson's home office had become a shrine to caution. Stacks of old bank statements, expired medicine, broken locks, and outdated insurance documents filled every shelf and drawer. He believed each item offered protection, a safeguard against forgetfulness, emergencies, or unexpected crises. On paper, this seemed responsible. In reality, his obsession with security transformed his home into a cluttered fortress, weighing heavily on his mind and restricting his freedom. Every step reminded him of what could go wrong rather than celebrating the life he had lived. Many seniors fall into this subtle trap. After decades of managing responsibilities and anticipating life's uncertainties, holding onto safety items feels responsible. Yet, over time, this hoarding becomes counterproductive. Clutter masquerades as protection, but the more items you accumulate, the more cumbersome life becomes. Wilson spent more energy navigating piles than enjoying the peace he sought. Old files didn't help him plan better. They created mental friction, slowed decision-making, and subtly undermined his confidence in managing the present. The emotional impact is significant. Seniors equating clutter with security often feel unease, hypervigilance, or fear that letting go could invite disaster. Objects intended to reassure instead become anchors, holding them back from clarity, simplicity, and genuine peace. Wilson realized true security wasn't found in paper stacks or expired bottles. It was cultivated through organization, digitizing important documents, disposing of outdated items, and relying on trusted systems rather than physical accumulation. Actionable steps include reviewing safety-related items systematically. Keep only what is current, necessary, or legally required. Digitize important documents, responsibly discard expired or irrelevant items, and create a compact, organized system that supports peace of mind without consuming space. By focusing on essentials and releasing outdated materials, seniors can transform their homes into secure and liberating spaces rather than prisons disguised as protection. Do you think holding onto old paperwork makes you safer, or just more anxious? Understanding this is the first step toward reclaiming both your home and your peace of mind. The eighth mistake is heartbreaking because it confuses clutter with purpose, leading seniors to mistake busyness for meaning in their lives. Mistake 8. Confusing busyness with purpose. Wilson's living room looked like a creative workshop gone overboard. Half-finished woodwork leaned against the walls, puzzles sat mid-completion on tables, and half-knit scarves draped chairs as if waiting for a magical moment to be finished. To any observer, it might have seemed industrious and purpose-driven. But for Wilson, each unfinished project was a silent weight, a reminder of intentions unfulfilled and time slipping by. Keeping busy had become a shield against deeper feelings, isolation, fear of slowing down, and the quiet acknowledgement that life was changing. Many seniors fall into this trap unknowingly. Filling days with endless tasks creates the illusion of accomplishment. Shelves stacked with unfinished hobbies can make a home look productive, but when activity substitutes for genuine engagement, satisfaction diminishes. Wilson realized these partially completed projects didn't bring joy. They acted like mental anchors, constantly reminding him of what was left undone, sapping energy, and cluttering both his home and mind. The emotional impact is profound. Seniors mistaking busyness for purpose feel persistent pressure to do more, create more, or achieve more, often at the expense of reflection and enjoyment. Wilson saw that while he believed he was enriching his life, the clutter told another story, one of avoidance, overcommitment, and misplaced priorities. Real purpose, connection, peace, and fulfillment had been buried beneath tasks never completed. Actionable steps include evaluating ongoing projects and keeping only those that bring genuine joy or growth. Complete meaningful tasks, release burdens, and resist filling every moment with activity for the sake of busyness. Prioritize, set realistic goals, and dedicate time to what truly matters. By consciously choosing, seniors reclaim both space and focus, turning overwhelming piles into symbols of intentional living rather than unnoticed weight. What's the longest unfinished project you've kept around? Sharing it can be the first step to letting go and making space for what really matters. The 9th mistake is the hardest because it comes straight from love, and letting go can feel like losing a piece of your heart. Mistake 9. Keeping clutter out of love, not use. Wilson's living room held a quiet shrine to the past. In the corner sat his late wife's sewing machine, covered in dust, with a stack of yarn and a half-finished quilt nearby. It hadn't worked in years, yet Wilson couldn't remove it. Every glance brought nostalgia and a subtle fear that discarding it would diminish her memory. Many seniors share this experience, preserving loved ones through objects rather than memories. Clutter becomes a tangible way to hold on to people no longer present, a physical manifestation of love that feels safer than intangible recollections. While honoring memories is human, equating love with preserving objects can trap seniors in the past. Homes fill with items that no longer serve a practical purpose, creating barriers to comfort and freedom. Wilson realized the sewing machine, once a tool of creativity, had become a weight, a daily reminder of absence and unfinished grief. Instead of warmth, it reinforced sadness and the illusion that memory depends on possession. This is especially poignant for seniors who have lost spouses, siblings, or lifelong friends. Keeping items for love is often well-intentioned, but without boundaries, it dominates space, dictates routines, and limits emotional healing. The emotional consequences are significant. Seniors may feel guilt, fear, or anxiety at parting with cherished objects, worrying memories will vanish or that letting go is betrayal. Wilson noticed that while he believed he was preserving his wife's legacy, he was also preventing himself from fully living. Clutter meant to honor love quietly eroded independence, comfort, and the ability to welcome new experiences. Recognizing the distinction between memory and object is crucial. Love and remembrance do not require physical possession. Photographs, stories, digital keepsakes, or rituals can sustain connection without filling living spaces with non-functional items. Actionable guidance includes identifying items that enhance emotional connection versus those kept out of fear or guilt. Start small, select 1 or 2 objects that evoke fond memories, and consider donating, gifting, or storing the rest. Wilson photographed his late wife's projects and created a small digital album, honoring her without the physical burden. Each release freed space and emotional energy, showing love is preserved in heart and memory, not clutter. Do you have something kept only because it belonged to someone you loved? Sharing it is a first step toward distinguishing memory from weight, reclaiming your home and peace of mind. And the final mistake may shock you. It hides under the name of independence, convincing seniors that holding on to chaos is freedom when it's quietly taking it away. Mistake 10. Calling chaos independence. Wilson had always prided himself on being self-reliant. At 68, he valued independence above all else, believing that asking for help, especially with decluttering, was surrender. His home, however, told a different story. Piles of papers, stacks of books, and overflowing boxes had begun to define the limits of his freedom. Rooms once designed for relaxation or hobbies were now labyrinths of clutter, making even simple movements cumbersome. Yet, Wilson clung to the idea that managing all of this himself, no matter how chaotic, proved autonomy. The irony was stark. The very clutter he resisted help with was quietly stealing his independence, restricting mobility, and shrinking the space where he could live fully. Many seniors fall into this trap. Decades of self-sufficiency, coupled with societal expectations around aging, make accepting help feel like weakness. Clutter becomes a silent testament to personal control, a visible assertion of independence, even when it paradoxically does the opposite. Wilson realized that avoiding assistance left him navigating hazards alone. Uneven stacks of boxes created tripping risks, narrow pathways limited access to necessities, and the mental load of maintaining excessive items eroded his peace of mind. What felt like empowerment was, in fact, constraint. The emotional implications are profound. Seniors who equate chaos with independence may feel frustration, anxiety, or shame, believing they are failing if they seek support. They may resist interventions from friends, family, or professional organizers, worrying help diminishes self-worth. Yet true independence is not managing every item alone. It is the freedom to move, think clearly, and live safely in a space that supports life. Wilson's breakthrough came when he recognized that accepting help didn't reduce autonomy, it enhanced it. Inviting trusted support allowed him to reclaim both space and control while preserving dignity. Actionable guidance includes identifying areas where help could create relief and setting clear boundaries. Seniors can invite friends, family, or professionals to assist selectively, focusing on physically taxing or mentally draining tasks. Structured sessions, decluttering one room at a time, allow control to remain with the individual while benefiting from support. Reframing help as empowerment rather than threat transforms homes from chaotic prisons into environments reflecting true independence, safe, manageable, and liberating. Do you think asking for help takes away independence, or could it actually give more freedom? Recognizing that support can strengthen autonomy is the final key to reclaiming space, safety, and peace of mind. Now, let's see what happened when Wilson faced these mistakes head-on and discovered a life of freedom beyond clutter. Wilson finally understood that clutter wasn't merely a matter of physical mess or disorganization, it was the manifestation of hidden fears, unspoken guilt, and love expressed in ways that no longer served him. Each pile, box, or unused object carried an invisible weight, fear of forgetting, obligation to others, or the desire to preserve memories. As he confronted each of the 10 mistakes he had unknowingly allowed to accumulate over decades, he discovered that letting go didn't erase his past, it honored it. By releasing items that no longer served a purpose, Wilson felt an immediate sense of relief, both physically and emotionally. His home, once crowded with objects that constrained him, became a sanctuary of clarity and calm. Each room, once a maze of shoulds and what ifs, transformed into a space that reflected intention and choice, allowing him to navigate his environment freely and comfortably. The emotional liberation was profound. Wilson noticed subtle changes, a lighter step across his living room, a clearer mind as he approached daily decisions, and a renewed capacity to focus on meaningful activities rather than the endless maintenance of unnecessary possessions. Seniors often underestimate the impact clutter has on mental health and well-being. By confronting these hidden mistakes, Wilson reclaimed not only physical space but also a renewed sense of agency, purpose, and joy in his everyday life. He realized that every item released was more than an object gone. It was a chain broken, a memory honored without imprisonment, and an opportunity regained to engage fully in the present. Every item you release isn't just space gained, it's peace regained. Don't just declutter your house. Declutter your life. Make room for freedom, for safety, and for the moments that truly matter. Let each object you part with be a symbol of the life you're reclaiming and the peace you deserve. Before you go, here's how you can hype this video and support this channel. On your YouTube app, scroll down and swipe left on the comment preview carousel until you see the hype button. Tap hype, select how many points you want to give, confirm, and that's it. You get 3 free hypes every week, and every hype helps push this message higher so more seniors can discover how to reclaim their homes and lives. While you're at it, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs hope and guidance. Together, we can grow a community of seniors who live clutter-free, empowered, and fully in charge of their present and future. Remember, peace isn't found in stuff, it's found in the freedom to live fully.